Hey everybody, welcome to the history of FMW. This is episode number 26. In this episode, we're going to cover the second half of 2001. Before we get started, Bahu, can you refresh us on the storylines and the business situation that FMW is in at the moment?
So last episode we talked about how Shoshi Arai was struggling financially. He's gone to different sources to be able to be lent money. So he's gone to his family. He's gone to friends. He's gone to different businesses, wanting to be just given money, lent money, and he, with the promise of I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back. Well, he's just at a point where he can't, he owes so much money to other people that now he needs to start going to the loan sharks. So he went to the loan sharks in order to be able to help pay the FMW wrestlers earlier in 2001, and then it helped that he was able to, that was money that he was able to pay them. And then when he got a video deal distribution through the Toshiba EMI had given him money for the video sales, he was able to pay the loan sharks back. So it worked successfully. So now he's at a point again now where the money is starting to decline again. So he has, and so he reached out to the Shoko Fund, which was pretty much a loan company, and they offered him, they gave him money and everything, and he was able to, so pretty much they were giving him pretty much $2,500 every month or so, but now he's hit a point. We're going into July 2001 where he can't use the Shoko Fund anymore because he's pretty much maxed out. They're not willing to give him any more money. And the whole thing, I forgot to mention this last episode, what Arai is doing is he's trying to keep FMW afloat because he wants to sell it. He knows that the way the conditions are and everything, he cannot keep going with how bad it is financially. And so he is trying to reach out to all these different companies, trying to get them to buy FMW from him so that FMW can keep going. And then he'll just have to deal with the debt afterwards. So because he couldn't use the Shoko Fund anymore, then he found another company, which was called the Nikishi. And they were kind of more shadier. It was all kind of shady, but this was even more shady in regards to loans, everything. And they actually, in the past, they were known by a lot of people in Japan as they wanted kidney donations from the people, making sure that you're going to pay us back and everything. So going into July 2001, Shoshi Arai is lent $20,000 from the Nichi loan company. So that's where we are now, where FMW can keep going because he's got this money, but I mean he's owed he's given $20,000, but he's gonna have to pay interest on it, and it's pretty much it's a high interest rate. It's 27% or so. So pretty much every $100, he's only really seeing about $83. He's having to pay back. So right now he's financially, it's afloat, but he's desperately trying to find an owner, trying to find a buyer and everything. And so he is no longer a part of the writing staff. He's just given it all to Koto Fuyuki and Sudo Nader. They're the main writing staff right now, along with a couple of their employees. Sinmu Yoshida is the vice president of FMW. He's helping and everything. And so they came up with the story in June, pretty much right before the show. They came up with the storyline, and where it's pretty much show that TokyoPop has bought FMW. They bought 47% from FMW from under Shoshi Arai, but Shoshi Arai still has 48%. So Shoshi Arai, I think I made a mistake last episode. Shoshi Arai actually has more of a percentage, so technically he still owns FMW. The TokyoPop owns 47%, and Hayabusa owns 5%. But since Shoshi Arai back in March had made Koto Fuyuki the commissioner, Koto Fuyuki still is making all the rules and everything like that. And going into July he set up a match at the stipulation where he's going to have Shoshi Arai be in matches, and if Shoshi Arai takes the pinfall, then he's going to be fired from FMW.
I have a couple questions about that. First, who were the what type of companies are they trying to shop it to buy it?
There's never was really anything specifically listed. Shoshi Arai would just say, I almost sold it to people, but again, there was never any official it was this company or this company. Shoshi Arai just made mention that he was close several times, but because Japan was in a recession and everything, trying to trying to sell a company that's right now over $1 million in debt, and again, Shoshi Arai was going to take that debt. They're not going to take the debt into it, but the fact that they got into $1 million plus in debt isn't a good sign for a company that you're going to spend however much money for. So like I said, he never mentioned exactly who almost bought it or anything, but it never ended up nothing ended up ever happening, obviously.
And my second question, which is, the company has staff. Who knows about this? Who knows that it's this dire?
I'm guessing just the booking staff itself, like the actual office employees. So Hayabusa, Fuyuki, Arai, Simu Yoshida, those type of just the very in circle and everything. I don't believe the wrestlers knew. I think obviously the wrestlers know, hey, this is struggling. This is we're struggling financially. It's obvious, to the fans even. But as far as I think, hey, we're trying to sell this company and everything like that. As far as I know, none of the wrestlers really knew, because I made mention, all the wrestlers were still shocked that FMW ended up going under when it came out.
All right. So, that's going to take us to our first show, which is going to be July 2nd when they ran Kurokan Hall, and then they ran again on the 20th. If you want to go over these shows for us.
So July 2nd, they announced 2,050 fans. Now, another thing that Shoshi Arai made mention is the fact that he felt that this storyline about the whole ownership and 5% and TokyoPop buying FMW and everything like that, he felt this was a real big mistake because he feels this is what really chased a lot of fans away and everything. We made mention last episode how Hayabusa is back, and hey, Kawasaki Stadium show drew over 10,000 fans. It could have done better, but it was still a good number. And then they had a successful Sapporo show, and then even with no card announced in June, they still drew pretty well and everything. Hayabusa's back. And you asked last episode, how were they financially with Hayabusa back? And I may mention it was kind of hit or miss. Shoshi Arai takes the blame on this storyline being the miss part, that this storyline just chased fans away and everything. And so Korakuen Hall the next month doesn't do as well as the month prior with no card announced. So but the matches announced for the show, or the top matches for the show, Tetsuhiro Kuroda defeated Mammoth Sasaki. Mammoth Sasaki now is going to have Simu Yoshida, the FMW vice president, who's trying to get he's the heel guy trying to steal FMW away from Arai, because TokyoPop, they've announced, hey, they can't, they're an American company. They can't actually run this company themselves and everything. So they rely on Yoshida to run the Japanese aspect of the company and everything. So he's a heel. He's going to be a manager for Mammoth Sasaki, who joined up with the heel group last month and everything. And then pretty much this is to establish, Yoshida as this cheating heel manager using an umbrella to attack Kuroda and everything. And the ending spot is, and Yoshida's not a good athlete by any means. He's kind of fumbly in this match. He's tripping and everything. And he accidentally ends up hitting Mammoth Sasaki. He's going to swing at Kuroda with the umbrella and accidentally hits Mammoth Sasaki. And it results in Kuroda getting a roll-up win. And it's ugly, and like I said, it's not a good sign right away for Yoshida to be this manager, and he's screwing up the key spots of the match. And then the main event is Hayabusa, Goemon, and Onryo taking on Mr. Ganasuke, Kentaro Kanemaru, and Shoshi Arai. Now, I may mention how Koto Fuyuki is the commissioner. He's making all the decisions and everything. And so if Shoshi Arai ends up losing, he will take the, he's fired. Well, so Fuyuki announces that, Arai's going to team with Ganasuke and Kanemaru and everything. They do a training sequence beforehand where Ganasuke's helping him Shoshi Arai do weights and everything, and they put Arai in the sauna and then lock him in the sauna and everything, just being total jerks to him. And so the start of this match actually has Goemon is going to go up against Shoshi Arai. Well, Goemon just lays down, hey, Arai, just pin me right now, and you obviously get to keep your job and everything. So Shoshi Arai goes to pin Goemon when Ganasuke and Kanemaru make the save on Arai, or makes the save from their own partner, getting the win. And also, Koto Fuyuki is the referee for this match as well. I've mentioned in the last couple episodes how usually when Koto Fuyuki is a referee, the match is is a really good match. This match, not so much. I mean, the wrestlers are good. So, when you put a Hayabusa, Ganasuke, and a Kanemaru in a match, it's going to be good no matter what. But there's nothing special about this match, especially because of the storyline and everything. Koto Fuyuki at the end is just trying so hard to get the pinfall on, or to count the pinfall and everything. He's making fast counts against Hayabusa and everything. And just being the heel referee. But anyway, by the end of the match, Hayabusa will end up hitting a 450 Firebird Splash on Ganasuke. Fuyuki slowly does the referee count to 2, and then he keeps his hand up all the way until a regular FMW referee, Marty Asano, runs into the ring and slaps Fuyuki's hand down on the mat for the 3 count. So the Hayabusa, Goemon, and Onryo team have won. Koto Fuyuki announces instead of Arai teaming up with them, now next month Arai is going to, or later in the month when they go back to Corrigan, Arai is going to partner for the Hayabusa side, and so the heel side can try and pin him that way and get him fired.
All right, and then if you want to go on and tell us about the July 20th show.
Yeah, and again, these shows, they announced 2100, but again, these shows are probably 60-70% as far as Corrigan Hall go. I mean, it's still better than March, February and March without Hayabusa. But with Hayabusa, these shows are still kind of considered disappointments.
Can I ask a quick question?
But again, it's nothing like what. Yeah.
So the attendance listed, I mean, these, they're, let's say that they're bringing in 1,200 people. That nowadays would be a pretty good crowd. So, like, why are the economics of FMW, like, why are they hemorrhaging so much money when by now standards, like, they're a pretty average company?
Well, you have to add in the fact that Kanemaru is making over $100,000. Hayabusa is making over $100,000. Fuyuki's, probably in that $100,000 range. So there's 3 wrestlers right there that are probably making more than any independent wrestler is making today. So just that aspect right there, you have a Ganasuke who's probably near the 100,000 mark, Kuroda, all of them. So you just have higher salaries because these salaries, were given to guys at a time where, hey, this is a a successful financial company, and Arai didn't really want to make more cuts or anything like that because this was, he was struggling to pay anyway. So, it's just a different dynamic. It was at this point, it's a badly run organization as far as how the finances are going, how they're putting money into everything. And again, like I said, like Freedoms or so. There's no wrestler in Freedoms that's making anywhere close to what Hayabusa and Kanemaru were making probably, back then and everything. So just that aspect, and then, there are shows also that are just doing less than the 1,200 or so. Those March shows were probably less than 500. So it's just different, a different dynamic. So. On this show, pretty much the main matches are Mammoth Sasaki defeating Onryo. Now the storyline here is that Shinmu Yoshida, his daughter, is now involved in everything. So Yoshida's cheating to help Mammoth against Onryo and everything. Well, Yoshida's daughter comes out. She's really upset that Yoshida is being like this and is a heel and everything and is attacking Onryo. Eventually, Mammoth would end up getting the win, and Yoshida's daughter starts screaming at him and everything, and Yoshida ends up slapping her to establish, what a heel. It turns out that Yoshida's daughter is so upset over Yoshida being like this and attacking Onryo is because she has a crush on Onryo. She likes Onryo. And so they're trying to build this love storyline with a girl that's probably 19, 20 years old in a plaid skirt and everything, and in love with a ghost who can't talk. So it's campy. And then the main event of the show is Koto Fuyuki, Mr. Ganosuke, and Kentaro Kanemaru and Senmu Yoshida teaming up against Hayabusa, Tetsuhiro Kuroda, Azusa Kudo, and Shoshi Arai. So, this is again more of the three wrestlers and the non-wrestler against three wrestlers and the non-wrestler, and this is a decent brawl and everything like that. And Azusa Kudo, who had lost to Chocobo Mukai earlier in the month at Corrigan, had been really upset, like, oh, my career is going downhill and everything. I want to team up with you guys. I want to prove my worth. I'm not just some loser. So he's in this match, and Kudo, or Gusako Gashigura, was always willing to take a lot of bumps and everything. So he's getting beaten up by Kanemaru really bad in this match. And like I said, it's a brawl, a lot of chairs and everything like that before eventually Kanemaru would end up getting the pinfall over Kudo. So Shoshi Arai doesn't get pinned, so he gets to keep his job. But Kudo has now lost, and he's really upset over, again, he's still doing the transsexual wrestler and everything like that, but he's really upset over how his career has gone the last couple months, especially since he's turned a babyface.
All right, so this is going to take us to July 29th. Now, on July 20th, so in the previous show, we talked about that Onita was going to get into politics. He ran to be a senator in the Japanese Senate, which is called the Diet. Well, on July 29th, he won. What was Onita's campaign like, and how was he welcomed into the Senate?
He really stressed education and everything. He had a lot of, for being kind of a Republican, he had more of a conservative. He'd been picked up by the Conservative Party, but he had a lot of liberal tendencies and all that as far as what he was promoting and everything. But and he's also stressing just kind of international peace and he wants to go to other countries and help other people, like just this worldwide. Let's help the world out. But yeah, so he ends up getting, and how they do it in Japan as far as this is, you just need a certain amount of votes. And so he needed about 148,000 votes, but he ended up getting 461,000. So he was a clear cut. He did really well. And so he wins. And right away he gets sued because he had promised to participate in a commercial for a company. And he ended up no showing. And so he ends up winning election, and just 2 days later ends up getting sued.
That is exactly how I want it to go. Now, during this, he continues to wrestle. What is the responsibility that how does he balance being a senator but also continuing? Because, we're not going to go over all of them, but he does quite a few matches. He does a few angles. Like, how does he balance that? And what is the public perception of Onita as he keeps on doing these?
Well, yeah, so he's not a full-time wrestler or anything like that. So he's not going on tour for 12 shows a month across the country or anything like that. He's doing his own shows, and around this time period, he starts to participate in the 0-1 shows that are like the big Budokan Hall or show, something like that. So he has a limited schedule anyway, so he can manage it. Jesse Ventura was able to be governor of Minnesota and still announce XFL games every week. So, there's a lax to the schedule and everything. So he just has to plan out, make sure that he's good. It did affect his schedule sometimes. He retired in 2003, and when he was still a member, he pretty much just retired just to get because even this part-time schedule, he needed to take a break from the part-time schedule to just focus on being a senator, and because he had agreed to participate for a show that he was going to main event Corrigan Hall, and right before the show's about to start, he's been promoted and everything. He gets called that there's a big important meeting for the Senate that he has to attend, and so he has to no-show a Corrigan Hall show that he was the big headline for and everything like that. So there were situations like that where it did affect him, but I mean, right now, it's in 2001, it doesn't really affect him, and like I said, he has such a light wrestling schedule, and it's not the most demanding job that you need to be there 350 days. It's not like being a full-time wrestler as far as I know.
All right, so that's gonna. I've got this image of him in a meeting, just like staring at clocks, trying to get out of there. So okay, it's so that's gonna take us to the August 3rd show that FMW ran. If you want to go over that for us.
Yeah, so again, they announced 2,100 fans, which again, it's about the same. Where they're drawing now kind of their base audience of 60 to 70%. That 1,400. There's noticeably a lot of seats empty seats and everything, but I mean, we just talked about it. It's an okay number, but for what FMW was, and another aspect to just go into that. Yeah, okay, they're drawing 1,400 fans. But we've talked about it, the house shows from months prior, and even still to this day, at this point, the house shows are still not great. The house shows earlier in the year killed them. Corrigan's supposed to be the big show that brings in the money and everything. So yeah, you make 1,400, and we went over just paychecks and being so high and everything, but you're just not making that much money if you are clearing anything by drawing 1,400. So anyway, Tetsuhiro Kuroda takes on Yoshihito Sasaki. I talked about him a couple episodes ago. He was a rookie at this point. He just started about 11 months earlier. They saw a lot of potential in him. He ended up being a great worker. So they saw potential in him early. So they're kind of giving him a little bit of a push compared to the other two rookies. They come up with a storyline where now his dad is going to accompany him. So you have this older Japanese guy coming to the ring with him and everything. So he takes on Tetsuhiro Kuroda. Kuroda ends up defeating him. But again, it's still that, hey, when you have a match against an established name, at least there's something to it. You're not just in some nothing undercard match that no one remembers the next day. You're in a main event against you're in a singles match against a guy who had just main evented one of the big shows of the year and everything. We have Fuyuki and Shoshi Arai. So since Shoshi Arai still has not been pinned or anything like that, Kota Fuyuki announces, I'm going to just have a match with Shoshi Arai myself, so I know I can beat Arai and everything. And so you had Kota Fuyuki and Shoshi Arai put on a horrible 9-minute match, pretty much. Nothing. I mean, Shoshi Arai's not a worker, and to put him in a singles match and everything. And so it's pretty much Fuyuki just beating up Arai the whole time. And then when it looks like that Shoshi Arai, Fuyuki's going to finally put Arai, and Arai's going to get free at that. Then the lights like that, and to go be pretty much put context into this. So because Azusa Kudo was so upset over losing the main event of the last show, and the whole he's in a funk and he's losing all his matches and he's feeling worthless, he's going to get a reverse sex change. And so he ends up going into this become a male again, and Stimu Yoshida, just I guess to be a jerk or something, he ends up during the surgery he has a spider collection, and he ends up mixing the spider DNA into when he's getting the surgery. And so as a result, after the surgery has taken place, whilst now becoming a male again, Azusa Kudo is now also half spider and is now a monster. And so during the match, the lights go black and everything, and out comes Biomonster DNA. And it's Gusako in a mask and everything like that. And he comes to the ring and he starts pouring this liquid on Fuyuki's head. on Shoshi Arai's head, and so the referee he attacks both of them. The referee calls for a no contest, ends the match, so Shoshi Arai still gets to keep his job. Kota Fuki did not win. Rai didn't lose. The referee just throws it out because Biomonster DNA has appeared. And then the main event of the show is Mr. Ganosuke, Kentaro Kanemaru, and Mammoth Sasaki. They take on Hayabusa, Goemon, and Onryo. And this is actually a pretty good match and everything. But all these matches I'm talking about, they're good, but nothing like, wow, I need to go out of my way to watch this. These are great. It's the standard good to really good match, but nothing you really need to watch or anything. But this is pretty much just noticeable for the fact that Ganosuke ends up hitting a Fire Thunder on Hayabusa, and then Kentaro Kanemaru ends up getting a powerbomb on Hayabusa, and Kanemaru gets the pinfall over Hayabusa. His first time he's pinned Hayabusa in almost 4 years, and so this is to set up Komazawa. They're going to have a big show at the Komazawa Olympic Gym the following week, and the storyline is set up where Hayabusa's 5% is going to be put on the line. They're going to have 3 matches. This was a random lottery choice based off the internet, and the random 3 matches are chosen, and it's going to be Kota Fuki against Biomonster DNA, Tetsuhiro Kuroda against Mr. Ganosuke, and Hayabusa against Kentaro Kanemaru. And if the Fuyuki Ganosuke Kanemaru team, if they win 2 out of 3, then they get the 5% of Hayabusa's that Hayabusa owns from the company, and then that TokyoPop will own FMW. And also, this also with the Kanemaru getting the win on Hayabusa sets up Kanemaru challenging for Hayabusa's WEW title.
So that's going to take us to a show on August 11th in Komazawa. If you want to go over that one for us.
So so this again, this show did pretty well as far as I know. They drew about 4,000. They announced 4,950. So that's almost 5,000 fans, which is a good number, and everything like that. I'm sure it was lower, but this building, I guess it holds 8,000 or so. So if they even just drew in that 4,000 range, I'm sure it wasn't a big financial success or a big financial hit as far as I know. Just to kind of go over some undercard storylines, when TokyoPop and all that came out, Stuart Levy, being an American, needed a translator. Well, they hired a translator, Rika Fujisaki, and over the last couple of months, it's turning out that Fujisaki he is falling in love with Shinjuku Shark and everything. And anyway, so Shinjuku Shark ends up defeating Flying Kid Ichihara, and then afterwards Shark gets on the mic and he has claimed that he loves Fujisaki also. So they are together and everything. So she had came in through as a heel member, but now she's turned babyface, and there'll be storylines with her. Happy Akeda makes his FMW debut. He was a dojo student, just pretty much a comedy gimmick. He loses to Satoru Makeda. Yoshihito Sasaki, I just talked about him, how they kind of were going to give him a semi-push and everything despite being a rookie. He defeats Hisagatsu Oya. That's a big win for someone that still doesn't have a year experience and everything. That's how high they are on Sasaki. They really like his style and just how, what he's able to do. And like I talked about, he ended up becoming a really good worker. And so they just really saw potential, and they were going to start pushing him right away, despite being less than a year. But another reason, they just felt like they needed to start pushing new faces. Goemon and Onryo, they take on Mammoth Sasaki and Shakoba Mukai. It's an octagon cage, so the cage wrapped around the ring and everything, octagon style. This is for the WEW Tag Team titles. This is nothing of a match, but it's pretty much all storyline. Simu Yoshida is accompanying Mammoth Sasaki, and his daughter is trying to get in to stop him from interfering and everything like that. And eventually, Goemon ends up getting tossed over the cage and ends up landing on Yoshida. And like I said, it's just a big storyline. Eventually, Goemon would end up getting back in the cage and getting a swanton on Choco Ball, and Onryo would end up pinning Choco Ball with an Onryo clutch, and then afterwards Onryo would walk away with Yoshida's daughter, so they formed a relationship. Like I said, it's pretty much 19-year-old girl, 19, 20-year-old girl dating a ghost, and the only way they can communicate is through text. And so then this sets up the big three matches for the show. Koto Fuyuki against Biomonster DNA. This pretty much just Fuyuki. He is just DNA pretty much just destroys Fuyuki. He shoots a gun at Fuyuki that just shoots liquid at him, and so Fuyuki's just covered in red gunk and everything. It's coming out of his mouth and stuff, and pretty much Biomonster defeats Fuyuki in just 3 minutes. So Fuyuki really puts over Biomonster strong here, thinking this gimmick is going to be something. Fuyuki stretchered off, and so the Hayabusa Kuroda DNA team get the first. They're up 1-0. The next match is Mr. Ganosuke versus Tetsuhiro Kuroda. This is okay, good match or so. They kind of brawl all over the building and everything. Eventually, Ganosuke would end up busting up Kuroda's elbow, and he starts attacking his elbow and everything. And eventually, Ganosuke gets like an armbar on Kuroda and ends up making Kuroda tap. So Kuroda, he's still like a solid number 2 guy, but that push that he had early in the year, it's not what it was. When it was Team Kuroda, you're the number 1 guy with Hayabusa out and everything. We're gonna focus the promotion on you. Not anymore. He's a distant number 2 guy, a babyface at this point. And then the main event of the show is Kentaro Kanemaru against Hayabusa. This is probably the last great FMW match. I love this match. Kanemaru bumps like crazy here. Hayabusa does this spot where he does a Hurricane Rana off the top turnbuckle on Kanemaru to the outside, sending Kanemaru through a table. There's some interference and everything, which does hurt the match. The heels start interfering. Mammoth Sasaki comes in and clears the ring, and Mammoth Sasaki is left Hayabusa and delivers a choke slam. And then the baby faces come in and clear the heels and everything. And eventually, like I said, it is a really good match though. Especially the ending sequence. Eventually, Hayabusa misses the Phoenix Splash, and then Kanemaru is about to come over with like a piece of the table that was broken off from earlier, and Hayabusa goes for he goes for a kick, smashes the table piece, and then goes for a kick on Kanemaru. Kanemaru ends up grabbing Hayabusa's leg and then kicks him. And then the whole Fuyuki team comes in and everything, and again, it's just more chaos, and eventually Kanemaru would end up getting a Thunderfire powerbomb on Hayabusa, and he ends up getting the win over Hayabusa. And so Kanemaru has won the WEW title, and the TokyoPop company now own that 5% of Hayabusa. So now they own a majority stake of FMW, and so all the heels are in the ring celebrating as TokyoPop now owns FMW.
Now, I'm just curious, how do the magazines cover these storylines? Do they present them as shoot storylines?
They're kind of in the back of the match at this point. FMW. Another aspect that we haven't really even talked about was, in 2001, FMW was kind of like not the in thing anymore, and because you had not only just New Japan was taking a hit, and All Japan was taking a hit, but you had new promotions. You had Toryumon, which was that just shot up right to the top and overpassed FMW almost right away as far as just popularity and everything, because this is a new high flying thing that brought in a lot of women and everything. Then you had Osaka Pro. Just this style is not clicking and everything. But so FMW is now on the back of the pages. You get maybe two pages at the most, 1 page mostly in the magazines. But yeah, no. It's covered. They're not breaking kayfabe, but it's more. It's worded in a way. They're wording it in the magazines. They're kind of wording it in a way of, this is what happened. Yeah, this is stupid, but we're not saying it's fake or anything like that.
All right. So that's going to take us to the next show. It's going to be September 5th. They ran a show at the Sapporo Green Dome. Yeah.
So we talked about last episode. They did a great number and everything. The lights were on for Sapporo, and and they drew and they announced 4,750. Well, they come right back to Sapporo, and they announced 3,250. So 1,500 fans less than 4 months earlier, pretty much a little over 3 months. And it's pretty much because there was really nothing to the show. Especially you had Hayabusa and Kuroda, pretty much be built up for 6 months, and then that's the main event of that show. For this show, you had Hayabusa and Kanemaru, and it's just pretty much a follow-up to the August 11th show that just happened 3 weeks earlier. So it's they go with Hayabusa and Kanemaru as the main event again. This show, they have, the lights are dark, everything. It's, and they drew pretty much half crowd, if that even, but nothing like they did a couple months earlier. Main matches here are Koto Fuyuki taking on Tetsuhiro Kuroda and Biomonster DNA. Again, they're protecting DNA as this monster gimmick that is unstoppable, but the problem with him is he's still in Gosako's he still has Gosako's built, and Gosako's not really a big guy or anything like that. So you have this like purple monster with like a spider mouth and everything, but then you just have a skinny guy in a suit. So it's not getting over, but they still protecting him because it's such a fresh gimmick. But Koto Fuyuki ends up getting the pinfall over Tetsuhiro Kuroda in the three-way match. And then Mr. Ganosuke and Mammoth Sasaki, they challenge Goemon and Onryo for the WWE Tag Team titles. Again, Yoshida's with Mammoth Sasaki, and there's interference and everything. This is another just okay to good match. But Ganosuke and Mammoth Sasaki end up winning the WWE Tag Team titles. And then the main event is Hayabusa and Kentaro Kanemaru. They're coming right back with it for the title. Hayabusa's getting a shot for it. And, it's a good match. I don't think it's anywhere close to what the August 11th show was as far as quality and everything. But pretty much, it's a Hayabusa Kanemaru match, which is going to be good. But pretty much the ending sequence is Kanemaru, who had won the WWE title pretty much based off low-blowing Hayabusa, ends up trying to kick Hayabusa low again. Hayabusa moves out of the way, and Hayabusa kicks Kanemaru low and then smashes Kanemaru with a piece of a table and then hits a 450 Firebird Splash. And so Hayabusa has won back the WEW Championship pretty much as a revenge, beating Kanemaru the way that Kanemaru beat him the month prior.
Awesome. And that will lead us to September 9th, where they ran Kuroken Hall.
Yeah, so, and again, just another standard 2,100 fans. There's not really actually too much to this show. They actually really cut down on the storylines and everything for this, but Biomonster DNA pretty much just destroys Onryo in less than 5 minutes. The best match actually of the show is Yoshihito Sasaki. Like I said, they're really going to give him a push. Now he's about a year in, and he goes up against Mammoth Sasaki, and they have a great, it only goes 11 minutes, but it's a great match. They are smashing the hell out of each other with a broken table in this match. After Mammoth had sent Sasaki through a table earlier in the match. And Yoshihito Sasaki is just fighting Mammoth, giving him all he could. It's a really good match, but Mammoth Sasaki obviously is going to destroy, end up getting the win, knocking Yoshida out. And then right before the main event, and add to the storylines going on here, because Shoshi Arai lost Shoshi Arai had lost, the FMW side had lost back in August. Instead of firing Shoshi Arai is now going to be Simu Yoshida's servant. So pretty much Shoshi Arai's like kind of just dressed up in raggedy clothes and has a little thing over his head. And he's getting a stool to set up for Yoshida to stand on, and pretty much just be Yoshida's whipping boy so Arai can keep his job. Pretty much be Yoshida's slave. And so Yoshida has all the power now and everything. And Yoshida shows on the big screen before the match. He goes, 2 years ago, low blows were outlawed in FMW, which was true. Fuyuki had announced in '99 that low blows were outlawed. So he then shows the screenshot of the video of Hayabusa kicking Kanemaru low before defeating him for the WEW title. Now, granted, Kanemaru the month prior had used the low blow himself, and then in the same match was about to use the low blow and missed it, and Hayabusa moved out of the way. But because Kanemaru had kicked Hayabusa low, Shinya Yoshida announces that Kanemaru must be rewarded the WEW title back. And it's funny because after you see the video of Kanemaru getting kicked low, Kanemaru starts selling the low blow like it's still affecting him 4 days later and everything. So they give the WEW title back to Kanemaru, and the heels celebrate and everything. This is Kanemaru, Fuyuki, and Ganosuke. They were the WEW six-man tag team champions after winning them back in July. And so they defend the titles against Hayabusa, Tetsuhiro Kuroda, and Goemon. One note before the match also is that Koto Fuyuki came to the ring in a Revolution shirt, which was Tenryu's old, pretty much the old stable and everything in War and everything. So that's pretty much to put the seeds for the next couple months and everything. But I mean, this is a standard, like I said, it's a standard show. It's a standard main event. Good, nothing great or anything like that. Eventually, Hayabusa would end up getting the pinfall over Kanemaru. Like I said, good match, but nothing to watch, nothing to stand out or anything. But Kanemaru, Kuroda, and Goemon have now won the WEW six-man tag team titles, and Hayabusa would actually never end up getting another shot at the WEW championship, even though it was pretty much just stripped from him.
So the roster is kind of shrinking. They've lost a few guys, and Shoshi or Rai, he's not working on the booking. So the general staff of the company is shrinking, and some of the cards are kind of getting shorter. What are the fans thinking right now? And does the company have any steam right now?
No, there's no steam really. I mean, it's because of the money that Arai had gotten through the loan sharks and everything, he has some money right now to play with. And I mean, these shows aren't killing FMW like they were back without Hayabusa and everything. They're still doing somewhat okay. It's not empty buildings or anything like that. So, but like I mentioned, FMW is definitely not the in thing anymore. It's pretty much, like, I think I talked about this last episode, where you have your FMW fan club, which they're going to follow FMW no matter what. You got those people, but that's not enough to survive by any means. Then you add in the Hayabusa fans that are just going to show up to see Hayabusa on top of the FMW fans. That's what this is right now, where some shows might do okay, some shows might not. If you have a hot main event or something like that, but at this point they've kind of done everything. There's really no match that's going to be hot, because now Hayabusa pretty much has faced everybody. I mean, you built up the Kuroda match for 6 months, okay, and then you drew a pretty good number. Back in May, they drew a number that they were used to drawing there in 98, 99 to 2000 or so. So they built up 6 months to pretty much just do what they used to do, and that was considered a success. And then you run it 3 months, then you run the same building 3 months later, you come back with a match that just happened to have the same main event, and you draw, 1,500 fans less, something so low you've never done in a big Sapporo building. So, because you just don't have a fresh new match, and you're trying to run all these shows and everything, and, there is no creativity right now as far as where there's no long-term where are we going plan. And I think at this point, with Shoshi Arai not coming to the meetings, FMW trying to sell, they're over $1 million in debt, Shoshi Arai's trying to sell it, it's just kind of like, let's just whatever happens, let's just do whatever we come up with. They're just kind of strapped for ideas at this point, and maybe the new owners will be able to come in and come up with new ideas, or maybe they'll fire us, or things like that. So it's just kind of let's status quo until something changes, because something's gonna change soon.
All right, so that's gonna take us to Onita ran a show on September 23rd. If you want to go over that one.
Yeah, so he ran at the Dipper Iraqi, and he's still having the the Tarzan Goto feud and everything like that, and so There's a no rope barbed wire match, and eventually, Masayoshi Motegi, who was on the heel side with Nakamaki and the Yuguchi and everything, he ends up getting a win over the Onita team of Sano. So the heel side wins and everything. But the big thing here, and this is pretty much the end of the Tarzan Goto against Onita storyline. Goto's not going to work with Onita anymore after this show. The big thing after this show is Shinya Hashimoto comes to the ring, and everyone is going crazy. Like, oh man, and Onita's still looking for these dream matches. He might not be working New Japan anymore. He might have already, faced the Choshu and the Mutos and everything, but now he's got Hashimoto on his sights and everything. And Onita cuts this passionate promo. He is making, he is going all out to to make this look like it is a huge deal. Hashimoto, and like I said, all the crowd is by him, and he's just giving Onita this big smirk on his face and everything. And so I may mention Onita is going to has started working for 0-1 with the idea of, I want a match with Shinya Hashimoto.
One more note, around this time, Big Japan, they're like pretty embroiled in the Combat Zone feud. They booked the Yokohama arena. Now this arena, it holds more than 10,000 people. This will be the biggest show that they would ever run, probably. Why did they book a building so big?
It's kind of the same reason that FMW ran the building 2 months or 2 years earlier. It was literally just to, hey, this is our WrestleMania. This is something for us to strive for. If we get something hot and everything, we can make a lot of money. And so they're thinking back, before this, they're thinking this, and you have John Zandig as the booker. Oh, this Big Japan CZW feud, this is going to be hot. This is going to help. I don't even think they ever thought they were going to sell out the building, but they thought, a financial success, that the Big Japan CZW feud was going to be really hot and pretty much lead to, like I said, like their WrestleMania. On top of, they get word that Ryuji Yamakawa is probably going to come back also, and so they feel like that's a big selling point as well. He'd be able to finally have his return match after getting that pretty much bruising his brain back in March. And then you get you add in a Terry Funk and a Mil Mascaris and things like that. They feel, hey, we could probably draw a successful show. Like I said, it probably won't be a sellout, but we can do well, and it's just something to strive for.
All right, so that's going to take us to the next show is going to be on October 9th, if you want to go over that for us. Yeah,
so, and again, we talked about the attendances and everything, but this show pretty much just drew the standard. We actually announced 1,900 fans for this show, so it's actually even less than what they had been doing, and, it's even... it's even more empty and everything. There was one actually really funny skit that they did prior to, or during the show, because I'm not even adding all the stuff that's going on in between. It's pretty much not. They didn't do commercial breaks because this is a pay-per-view, but they do these cutaway segments and everything. And a lot of it was like a female talent search that Fuyuki was putting on, and then a female interviewer, interviewing one of the wrestlers, and then like the Shinjuku Shark love storyline and all this stuff. So all this stuff is also going on. Yoshida Sasaki's father getting mad, things like that. But there was actually one really funny skit where Hayabusa is walking in backstage and everything, and he sees Ganosuke and Kanamura backstage and everything. And Ganosuke has this megaphone, and they're going, stop the hate, and Kanamura starts dancing and everything like that, and you get into the groove of the chant and everything, and Goemon ends up coming by and seeing this paper. It's pretty much just this, hey, quit being so hateful, Hayabusa, quit being such, so mean to us and everything. We're just trying to run our company because they're the heel side and everything. Quit trying to fight the company and everything, and just, be pretty much just, they're being heels and everything, and the heels are in charge and everything. Quit fighting us. Quit trying to get the company back. Just be a good employee and everything. So anyway, Goemon walks by, sees this piece of paper, rips it up, throws it down and everything. Anyway, so on this show, the main thing, like I said, Fuyuki has decided that he's going to get his win back on Biomonster DNA. And he avoids the shooting gun. I think he uses the gun that shoots the gunk at Biomonster himself. He ends up getting a lariat on Biomonster DNA, and he ends up getting his win back over DNA, and they're gonna repackage DNA after this match. Fuyuki also announces pretty much he tears up his FMW contract, and so he announces that he's going to. Well, he doesn't announce it, but it's the beginning of the storyline of Fuyuki is leaving FMW to join the war group with Tenryu and everything. And then Kentaro Kanemaru, Chakoba Mukai, and Nosawa. Nosawa had appeared on the September 9th show, and so he's starting up at FMW on this tour and everything. They take on Goemon, Onryo, and Ricky Fuji. Nosawa pins Ricky Fuji. It's just to establish Nosawa. He's going to be a mid-carder who's going to feud with Onryo. And then the main event is Hayabusa and Tetsuhiro Kuroda against Mr. Ganasuke and Mammoth Sasaki. Again, another good match. Nothing great or anything like that, but it's still pretty decent. And Hayabusa ends up he would end up rolling up Mammoth Sasaki for the win. And so Hayabusa and Tetsuhiro Kuroda now have won the WEW Tag Team Championship. And afterwards, it's announced that Mammoth Sasaki is going to take on Hayabusa in a singles match. And if Hayabusa wins, then Shoshi Arai can get his company back, and he'll be president again.
Before debuting here, who was Nozawa?
He was he had started up in DDT like in '99 or so. So he was a small Japanese indies wrestler who had ended up going to Mexico. And so he had worked for IWRG and CMLL for about a year or two, and he had worked some XPW. So he had some international experience and everything, and he was friends with Hayabusa. I know years later, Hayabusa and him were really close. I don't know if Hayabusa got him the job or anything like that, but I think it was more of let's just get we need to get some new faces. He's willing to work cheap. He's willing to job to Hayabusa in matches and be a mid card guy. Because we need some new talent, because this is just not cutting it at this point. As far as just like you may mention, the rosters are a lot less. We need some new faces. Everyone's faced each other, so they're open to bringing in some lower indie wrestlers. They had also brought in Tomoya Adachi. He was an Eagle wrestler around this time period as well. He'd worked select shows. He was a really talented wrestler, high flyer and everything. He was a small indie wrestler. They were bringing him in, everything just to kind of fill out the mid card and try and make the mid card matches to these shows better, because most of these mid card matches suck. And to bring in a good talent to fill in for the mid card, that's a win.
All right. Now, quickly, you kind of mentioned that they were starting an angle with War. On October 19th, Hayabusa met with Tenryu and Fuyuki to make announcements about this. What happened here?
So pretty much, yeah, he met up with Tenryu, and they're going to have a singles match. Like I said, Fuyuki pretty much joined the War side, and the War side is going on in all Japan right now. Because War, the actual promotion, is not active. So War is pretty much just a group in All Japan, because Tenryu's one of the top guys and everything in All Japan. So it's pretty much All Japan versus War. And they announced that we had made mention the episode prior how All Japan wanted to get Hayabusa involved in everything and start working for them. Well, Hayabusa was never going to leave FMW, but he's willing to work All Japan on his off shows or on his off dates and everything, especially something like Budokan Hall against a Tenryu. And so it's made official that there's going to be a 5 versus 5 match at Budokan Hall, pretty much 5 single matches, and it's the winner, the All Japan versus War. The winner, 3 out of 5 of the singles matches, wins the show pretty much. And Hayabusa is going to represent the All Japan team. He's going to take on Tenryu at Budokan Hall.
Hayabusa is coming back from his surgery, and when he was out, business was down. How is he feeling about the situation currently? Hayabusa is coming back from his surgery, and when he was out, business was down. How is he feeling about the situation currently?
So in October 2001, like I may mention, Shoshi Arai now is just all he's focused on is trying to get money to keep FMW survived, and he's trying to find a buyer so when to buy FMW. So he's not doing anything as far as like presidential goes. He's literally just, I need money and I need to find someone to buy the thing for me because we are losing money. It's about to die. I can't let FMW die. And so Shinmu Yoshida, who we've been talking about, he takes over the responsibility of booking the tours and everything. Well, October comes and he's just booking shows wherever he can book them that are willing to, take the bookings and everything. So he ends up booking a crazy schedule in October. And so essentially this was their schedule. So they ran in Kumamoto in Hayabusa's hometown on October 7th. And then 2 days later, they ran that Corrigan Hall show we talked about with where Hayabusa and Kuroda won the tag team titles. That, over a 2 day span, they took a bus for 14 hours. No flying, no hotels. It's just after the show, get on the bus, and we're heading out and everything because they can't afford hotels, they can't afford planes or anything. They just got to go with their tour bus that they already own. So that's 14 hours in 2 days. Then right after Corrigan Hall, then they turn around and go to Wakayama. That's 7 hours of a drive and everything. So you just went, 14 hours, right? Then 7 hours. You did stay a night in Wakayama because they ran 2 shows. Then the next day they go and drive 4 hours to run to Toyohashi. So then after running Toyohashi, then they go another 3 hours to Osaka. Then after Osaka, and think about this, they're wrestling and everything. So you get on the bus, pretty much showering in the locker room, get on the bus, head out, and then after the Osaka show, then they go to Chiba. And Chiba, that's a 6 hour, 40-minute drive. And I just Googled all these, the distances up. This is, no traffic, no fastest destination just because of how insane this schedule is. So it's probably, it's a 14-hour drive. It's a 7-hour drive. It's a 4-hour drive. It's a 3-hour drive. A 7-hour drive. Then they go to Nagoya. That's another 4-hour drive. They go from Nagoya to Nagaida. That's a 6-hour drive. Then the next day they go to Nagita to Kyoto. That's a 6 hour and 45-minute drive. So then they have a show in Kyoto and everything. Then they get as soon as the Kyoto show is, they get on the bus and everything like that. It's another 5.5 hour drive to Tokyo where they pretty much drop them off. They get home on the last day of the tour in the early morning. It's like 6 a.m. or so. So because of all this, Hayabusa gets home, and I mean you can only imagine just being on a bus for hours on end, pretty much every day, not getting any rest, anything like that. Well, in the process, Hayabusa catches a cold and everything. So Hayabusa heads home. He's not feeling well or anything like that. He takes his temperature. He has 101 degree temperature. He ends up taking a nap and everything, going, oh, this is the last day of the tour. I can do this. He was thinking about canceling. Just I'm not feeling well. I have 101 temperature. I shouldn't wrestle on the show. I'm on the poster. I'm the main face on the poster. I can't no-show a Corrigan Hall show when I can walk and when I can wrestle and everything like that. I can't miss this show. So he ends up, he ends up going to the show and everything with the 101 temperature, based off the fact that he couldn't really recover because the schedule was just so crazy that he never had a chance to rest or anything like that, because Shoshi Arai wasn't doing his job as the president by booking a real schedule and where the cities are close to each other. It was just pretty much South Japan to Central Japan to back to South Japan to North Japan, things like that, where it was just, it made no sense, and it was just pretty much just, it was obviously not ran, it was not a well-run promotion at this point, because Shoshi Arai, who's supposed to be doing this stuff, is focusing on other things and handling it to people that are not qualified obviously, to be able to handle what they were given, because Shoshi Arai is just too focused on, let me sell this company and let me get as much money as possible.
So that's going to take us to October 22nd, and I'll let you go over that for us.
So, really, the only thing that's prior to the show, prior to the main event that's noteworthy is that Bio Monster DNA has a new outfit. So now it's like this big fake, big purple outfit and everything. He's big giant monster to hide the fact that Gosaku Gashuguera didn't really have much of a body on him or anything like that. So he does at least look like a legitimate monster now. And he destroys Oya in under 2 minutes. And then prior to the main event, Hayabusa, you see Hayabusa backstage and everything. And you see someone talking to him and everything. And Hayabusa looks up, and this is backstage by the steps, Corrigan and everything. And there's a ghost, or he's a spirit or a demon or something. And he tells Hayabusa, you are cursed. As long as you are fighting in FMW, many curses will be brought to you. You are the one who has been cursed. Even if you struggle to keep on fighting, your wrestling life as Hayabusa will be finished within 2 years at the most. Don't forget it, Hayabusa. And then you see Hayabusa, and he starts to kind of go up the stairs at this ghost demon or whatever, and he's gone. And you hear the crowd laugh and everything, and it's pretty jarring over what ends up happening afterwards, because pretty much what he said minutes prior to a storyline that probably, I don't know where it was going to go or anything like that, ended up happening right away. It was pretty much called right there. So go into the main event of the show, and Hayabusa, like I mentioned, he's sick, and he comes, and this show is not, another one of those just not, the attendance isn't anything. They announced 2,050 fans, but there's noticeable empty seats and everything. I'm sure, half or under half or so. The loyalists. It's pretty much the FMW fan, the loyal fans are at a show like this and everything. And like I said, the winner gets to own FMW again. So Shoshi Arai is on commentary during this match and everything, because if he wins, he gets the company back. And so I may mention Hayabusa's sick. He has a 101 temperature and everything. And he, and during the match, he does a drop kick, and he notices, I didn't get very high on that. Wow, like he feels it like right away. Like he doesn't have the elevation that he's used to and everything. And he's having a standard match against Mammoth Sasaki and everything like. He does the Asai moonsault into the crowd. They brawled in the crowd a little bit too. And somewhere during the match, Hayabusa even thinks nobody is responding to this match. Like everyone's just quiet, is just watching. Like he kind of gets this sense of urgency of like, we need to pick up the pace. Like nobody cares about this match. And so he ends up, he kind of feels like he started to rush himself while still being sick, because I need to pick up the pace. We need to get going. We need to get this, something. The slow, methodical match. No, we need to pick up the pace. We need to keep going and everything. So, like I said, Hayabusa does an Asai moonsault on Mammoth Sasaki, throws him back into the ring, does an Asai moonsault on one side, comes back, or a flip over on Mammoth Sasaki, comes back on the other side of the rope and trips and falls directly on his head. And his first initial thought is, I can't feel anything, but this happened back on May 5th, 2000 against Tanaka. I couldn't feel anything, and it came back. So maybe it's going to come back, this feeling, because I'm not feeling anything. Well, that feeling never ends up happening. And Hayabusa, and this is, okay, so the way you watch the match and everything, you see Marty Asano, the referee, come over to Hayabusa and everything and start talking to him. And then Mammoth Sasaki, who does not know what's going on, he was laying on the mat. He was looking up at the ceiling and everything when the injury happened. So he doesn't even know what happened. He just sees Hayabusa down. So he doesn't know what is going on. All he has to go off is a lot of the fans just kind of like made a loud noise and everything. So he goes over, and what you would imagine is Hayabusa told them to keep the match going and everything. Hayabusa has because then Mammoth Sasaki puts him in a headlock and everything to give Hayabusa time to kind of regain feeling and everything. Hayabusa says that never happened. No, I knew right away. I never said for the match to keep going. That is no. So, I'm gonna go off what Hayabusa actually said and everything as far as his memory goes and stuff. So he is in a chin lock, pretty much headlock, chin lock, and anything, and he actually starts to feel, in his own words, he starts to feel his spirit leave his body and everything, like an astral projection, where he's above the himself. His spirit, he says, is above him. He can see the ring and everything. He sees his body, getting in a chin lock with Mammoth Sasaki from above. And then he stated he comes back down and everything and just wakes up. And the next thing he knows, it's Marty Asano going, "Mr. Zaki, are you okay? Are you okay?" And Hayabusa, he can't talk. He just, that feeling never came back like he was hoping for at the beginning when, like I said, the Tanaka injury happened. He feels, he's trying to get out the words that I'm going to die. And so Marty Asano ends the match, calls for the bell. Ricky Fuji, who had seen the injury, he was watching backstage on the TV backstage at Korakuen Hall. He saw the injury, so he was already out there and everything, going, what's going on? The bell rings, and Mammoth Sasaki again doesn't know what to do. He's still supposed to play a heel and everything, so he's just kicking the rope, being a heel. Doesn't know a lot of the FMW, the babyface wrestlers are only allowed to come out and everything. I mean, it's still keeping kayfabe, is still strong and everything. And so all the babyfaces come to the ring to check on Hayabusa, and pretty much. They call the Shoshi Arai, like I mentioned, he was also calling the match, but he didn't see the injury. He just was looking down at the moment that the injury happened. So he just heard the crowd go crazy after the injury and everything. And Shoshi Arai's at the table, screaming for Hayabusa and everything before he comes to the ring, because no one knows what's going on. No one knows what really, how bad is this injury. Hayabusa's not getting up. And so Hayabusa, he asks, he's struggling to breathe and everything. So he asks for them to take his mask off and everything. And he asks for the microphone. And he gets on the mic and he goes, "All of you, I'm truly sorry. Truly sorry. It might probably take me a long time to come back, but I want to come back. I think I want to come back. So please don't abandon FMW that I loved and risked my life for." And all the fans start screaming, "We will wait for you." And so Hayabusa, at this point, Hayabusa feels like he's going to die, pretty much. He does not think he's going to live the night, how bad this injury. He's not even thinking injury. He's just thinking he's going to die. He's not thinking I'm paralyzed or anything like that. That sensation of just not being able to feel anything, I'm dying. Like, I just saw my spirit, I was just a spirit floating up at Korakuen Hall just a second ago, according to him, and then I'm back down. Like, he thinks he's about to die. And so they call for the ambulance and everything, and they put him in the they cart him off on a stretcher and everything. Shoshi Arai gets on the mic, and the show just pretty much ends at this point also. Like, the pay-per-view just ends. There's some bonus footage on a DVD that came out years later and everything. Shoshi Arai is getting on the mic and just goes, "Please, everybody, get out of the way so that the ambulance can come, get down the elevator and everything like that. Please, no one be in interference." And all the wrestlers, they help stretcher Hayabusa out of the building. They put him in the ambulance and everything. And then Hayabusa, all he remembers is just hearing a man, he's just kind of in and out of consciousness and everything, and he hears the ambulance drivers like talking to the hospital because they're coming, and he goes, a man fell on his head during a pro wrestling match. He's 31 years old. He has numbness from the bottom of his neck and is conscious. And so, and then one of so then he arrives at the hospital and everything. And he also asked for before he was taken off, he asked for someone to get his cell phone, go to his locker, get his cell phone, call his wife, let her know she needs to show up and everything also. And so he ends up arriving at the hospital, and one of the nurses begins touching his body, and he doesn't feel any of it. So this is the beginning of, oh, I can't feel anything. And so he just starts, he can't breathe very well. They put an oxygen mask on him. They've taken him to a nearby college university that's right by Corrigan Hall. They asked for him to, he starts freaking out, crying and everything, just realizing what's going on. He's just realizing, wait, I was just wrestling like an hour ago, and now I can't breathe and everything. So Hayabusa's at the hospital, and he gets told, or he hears from one of the nurses, he's got a broken neck. His whole body's paralyzed. He's bedridden. And, like I said, Hayabusa has the oxygen mask and everything. And he heard that, but he was like, who was saying that? And then he passes out. And like I said, he wakes up with the oxygen mask, and he's just feeling numb completely. His wife came in to see him and everything. The doctor walks in and says he suffered a cracked vertebrae in the L4 and L5 disc. If he doesn't recover in 3 months, he's probably going to be bedridden for life. And Hayabusa hears that and goes into mental shock. Like I said, he was just wrestling. He just did an Asai moonsault a couple hours ago and everything. And we're just having a normal match and everything. And now he's bedridden for life if he doesn't recover in 3 months. Like, that just kills him pretty much, just how he's feeling and everything. Like, he just feels like life's over at this point. And then so then the next day, he's moved into the ICU, and all he can do is just look at the ceiling. That's all he does all day. He just looks up. And the nurse has to move him around, change him so he doesn't get bed sores. And Hayabusa feels his heart break. And this is just his, like I said, he just wants to die at this point. He feels so horrible. His wife would come visit him. They bring Ayan, who's 4 at this point, and she, who's 2 at this point, to see Hayabusa. And like I said, he doesn't. What can you do? It's just such a horrible feeling. And 2 days later, Shoshi Arai, he would come visit him, and he goes over and just apologizes over and over. Like I mentioned, he felt so guilty for this because he knew he didn't do his job in making sure that the schedule was what it was supposed to be and everything. And as a result, Hayabusa was just worn out. He knew this, all these beaten up, and if it's whether it's true or not, Arai felt responsible for Hayabusa being paralyzed because of this. If the tour wasn't so horrible, then he wouldn't have been in the bad condition. He wouldn't have tripped and everything. So that's what Arai feels like. So he's apologizing over and over. He lets Hayabusa know, though, you're going to be taken care of financially during this. You're not, FMW, you have insurance and everything. You're going to be okay financially. But then the next day, October 25th, pretty much Hayabusa has 2 male nurses have to change his diaper. And so just that alone is just such humiliating. And he just starts crying and just wanting to die. He sees a window just 3 feet away and wishes he could jump out of it. But then he starts to cry because he realizes he can't even kill himself. That's how bad off he is. Even if he wanted to kill himself, he can't. All he can do is just bite his tongue at this point. And so this is just this horrible feeling. I can't move. If I improve in the next 3 months. I'm paralyzed. I can't move. This is what my life is going to be and everything. Things got a little bit better as far as just a company and everything as the days went by. His parents would come by to see him. They would travel from Kumamoto, which is really far south Japan. So, I mean, it's a good distance and everything for them to come see him. And then he would actually end up seeing Mr. Ganasuke and Koji Nakagawa, Goemon. They would show up in early November 2001. So after about a week or two, they show up, and Hayabusa's like, "What are you doing here?" And Ganasuke's like, "Oh, we told them we were your cousins." So that they let us in because it's family only. And so, I mean, Hayabusa couldn't believe that. Okay, you believe them that we're related. Okay, but I mean, he was just happy to see his friends and everything like that. So this is a horrible sequence. I mean, we'll go over here in a second, but this was pretty much the nail in the coffin, and it's a horrible thing to happen to someone that was a great person, and I mean, he loved FMW, and it's just a tragedy.
Yeah. So the first question that I have is, what is the reaction from the bigger names of the industry?
I mean, all of them give just kind of interviews, but it's like everyone did top names, Muto, Onita, even Tenryu, everything like that. They would all give interviews, but I mean, essentially it was just, this is a tragedy. This is horrible. I mean, especially over the fact that it was just a simple spot that he'd done 1,000 times. He did an Asai moonsault every match, pretty much as Hayabusa. It was something that was common. He wasn't trying some weird, crazy move or anything like that, or it wasn't just some horrible, let me try this spot that I'm trying for the first time. This was a staple move that he did all the time, that he had mastered. And, I mean, he says, quite frankly, I just tripped. It was just like tripping on a rock, and just having a misstep. And, as a result, it was just the worst case scenario. I mean, there have been wrestlers that have tripped on that rope. I've seen Chris Jericho do the same move and trip and everything, and I mean, he obviously is okay. Like, they end up landing okay, but this was the worst possible landing, the worst possible situation. Even if he had just tripped just a little bit before or a little bit afterwards, or even if Mammoth Sasaki had just been on the mat itself, if he had just hit Mammoth Sasaki instead of the ring, this injury wouldn't have been as bad. But since he hit the ring, the angle he hit it at the exact spot, that's what caused this horrible injury. I mean, but as far as just like I said, wrestlers, I mean, some guys too. We've talked about how Misawa was drinking buddies with him and everything. He was seen as a top guy. This wasn't just some low-level guy that was just, yeah, he works for FMW. I don't know him. Everyone knew Hayabusa. He was, like I said, friends with Misawa. He was close. He was work friendship wise with Kobashi. They respected each other. The New Japan guys, everything, like I said, just everyone, was just really, pretty much just like I said, just pretty much a tragedy all across the board. Because like I said, everybody knew Hayabusa.
What immediate business decisions does do they need to make, and what do they do in the immediate aftermath?
Well, they had, and we'll go over here probably in a little while. They had Tomokazu Morita, who he was another one of the FMW rookies from 2000. They had the month prior, they had sent him to Mexico because they did see potential in him too as a high flyer. He kind of had a Hayabusa. He kind of looked like Hayabusa in the face and everything, and he had been a Hayabusa fan. Back into 96, you could see him in the crowd cheering for Hayabusa whenever they were in Chiba and everything. So he was a big Hayabusa fan. So they sent him to Mexico even before this injury to be like, not another Hayabusa, but to be, a high flyer and to be a top guy down the line. Well, a month in, Hayabusa gets injured, and they have a Yokohama Bunker Gym show coming up. So pretty much they have to come up with an idea how to bring Morita back, and he's pretty much going to need to be a Hayabusa replacement because Hayabusa was going to be in in a tag match at the Yokohama Bunker Gym, well, and as the main draw. So now they pretty much have to bring in Morita to replace, an FMW rookie, essentially, 13 months in the business, and they're coming in, and he's going to have to now main event and take over Hayabusa's spot because they have no other solution. They have no other choice, they feel like.
Okay, and finally, what is morale like for the locker room?
It's just, yeah, it's down at this point. Most of it is because of the Hayabusa injury and everything like that. I mean, you saw what happened in February and March or so after a couple months of no Hayabusa. They almost went under. Korean Hall shows were doing horrible and everything. So, we've talked about it's kind of hit and miss with Hayabusa, but it was horrible without him. But at least then there was a comeback in sight. Hayabusa's coming back. Hayabusa's coming back. He's going to be here. He'll save us and everything. Hayabusa now, not only is he gone, he might not, it turned out he obviously never came back and everything. And, the injury was so severe, he never could wrestle again. And you kind of know that going into it, but he's not coming back anytime soon. And so there's that just low morale on top of the crowds are about to get real low again.
One note about that. So on November 3rd and November 4th, they ran 2 shows in Fukuoka. The first one drew 9,000 fans, and the second one drew almost 14,000 fans. What is the story behind these shows?
They were $1 shows. So they would do it at by an auto race center or by a lake or, where a lot of tourists were, a lot of fans were and stuff. They'd hold these shows. They'd done it the year prior also. So pretty much you just $1 ticket. You can stand up and watch this show and everything. And it's a way to get attention. And, a lot of promotions, a lot of low indie promotions still do it to this day, but usually for free. But what FMW did was, charged $1. You could stand and watch the show and everything. And it's maybe gain some interest. Maybe, if you were on the fence about watching them, you'll now start to follow them and everything like that. It's just a way to create interest. And, they make a little money. So you're making $14,000, which isn't much or anything like that, but it's still something. And it gains attention and everything, and it looks good as far as a lot of people there and cheering and everything. So it's just a different way to promote a show.
All right, and this is going to take us to November 5th. If you want to go over that show for us.
Yeah, they announced 1950, and so at this point, they've lost some of the Hayabusa fans that are just only going to see Hayabusa. But there was still some interest, especially to see, wait, am I going to get an update on Hayabusa and stuff like that? Obviously, Hayabusa wasn't going to be on this show or anything, but there was a lot of support for Hayabusa also. Thousands and thousands of people sent letters and everything to Hayabusa. It was they really marketed, and they marketed towards English fans also on their website. Come, write a letter to Hayabusa, let Hayabusa know how much you miss him and how much you love him and everything. FMW was really supportive and everything. But for this show, pretty much it's just to set up the Yokohama Bunkie Gym show that's scheduled for later in the month. So they bring in the great Sasuke. He comes in to team up with Goemon. They take on Kentaro Kanemaru and Nosawa. It's a good match. Sasuke does some, his high flying moves and everything. There's a spot, I believe, where Kanemaru does this table power bomb through a table on Sasuke and everything. But Sasuke would end up getting the pinfall over Nosawa. This sets up Sasuke challenging Kanemaru for the WEW championship, and then the main event is the War team. So, like I said, Koto Fuyuki has now joined the War side with Tenryu and everything. They're going to fight against FMW. So this is the big storyline now for the rest of the year: is FMW versus War. Koto Fuyuki, Arashi, and Koki Kitahara, the War team, they take on the FMW team of Tetsuhiro Kuroda, Hisagatsu Oya, Riki Fuji. It's an okay match, but eventually Fuyuki would end up getting the pinfall over Riki Fuji. And then Tenryu ends up coming to the ring and everything, and this is how they set up the main event of the show for the Yokohama Bunkie Gym, where so prior to the show, Koto Fuyuki had announced, with Hayabusa injured, I'm going to come up with my own. I'm going to bring in a new Mexican wrestler to help, replace Hayabusa and everything for the time being and stuff. It's kind of like a substitute. So I am going to have a wrestler called Garuda. I'm going to pick him up from the airport, and he's going to be on my side and everything. And so Kota Ibushi gets on the mic after defeating the FMW team, and he calls out for Garuda to come to the ring. And the Welcome to the Dark Side music plays, and out comes Tomokazu Morita in the Hayabusa outfit, the Dark Side Hayabusa outfit. So he has the black ninja pants, and he has the black mask with the horns and everything that Hayabusa used to wear, and everything. And so Fuyuki goes, "Come out, Garuta." So Garuta is going to be the new Mexican wrestler, and Garuta comes to the ring and attacks Fuyuki right away. He does a really cool spot where he pretty much just he jumps right up to the top turnbuckle and does a 450 Firebird Splash on Fuyuki to show that he is with the FMW side. And Tenryu's just looking at him like, who the F is this kid? Like, Tenryu's showing no respect to Garuda, just the way he's looking at him like, what is this? Tenryu is not impressed by this. And so this sets up the main event for the Yokohama is going to be Tenryu and Fuyuki, who are also going to be touring on the All Japan show, or the All Japan tour for the Real World Tag Tournament. They're going to be taking on Tetsuhiro Kuroda and Garuda in the main event. Also, I wanted to make mention real quick that during that 5 versus 5 match at Budokan Hall that All Japan ran back on October 27th, they had Kota Fuyuki took on Toshiaki Kawada, his old tag team partner with Footloose. So he got to have kind of his dream match. He wanted to start working the All Japan wrestlers and everything. So he took on Kawada and he lost. And then also Jinsei Shinzaki, he took the spot of Hayabusa. They changed the matches around, so he didn't take on Tenryu like Hayabusa was going to. But Jinsei Shinzaki ended up taking on, I believe, Koki Kitahara, and he ends up getting the win after hitting a Falcon Arrow on Kitahara as a tribute to Hayabusa, his friend.
So, what is the what is the reaction to them basically redoing the Hayabusa gimmick in this way?
As far as a crowd, so we'll go over here in a second, but the show didn't do necessarily very well or anything like that, as far as I know. But so maybe attendance-wise, it didn't do anything. But they're not booing or anything like that. It's just kind of like, okay, and I'll just use my opinion. Being an FMW fan, following the product, I understood, like, hey, this needs to happen as far as what's going on. Like, I'm not seeing this as like, oh, they're trying to replace Hayabusa or they're, in a negative way. It's literally just they're desperate. They're just looking for something. And hey, Morita has talent. Maybe he can be a good worker and everything. And they also and at the Yokohama show, he changes his gear and everything like that. So they don't try to have him be Hayabusa or Dark Side Hayabusa or anything like that. But also I wanted to make mention as well. After all that Garuda stuff to end the show, Mr. Ganosuke comes out, and so Ganosuke had been a heel the last couple months and everything, and Ganosuke cuts this awesome promo, telling the fans, hey, I'm Hayabusa's best friend. He's my childhood friend and everything, and we need to support FMW. We need to keep you going, back, and everything. And all the fans just start chanting for Ganosuke and everything. So he has made like this passionate babyface turn with this promo and everything. And so, because hey, yeah, Hayabusa and Ganosuke, no matter how many times they feud and everything, when it comes to real life, they're best friends, and the fans know it and everything like that. So, the storyline reason we'll go over here in a second. They probably should have done this. Probably work way better, but they turned into a face right away doing this.
Okay, now also around this time, Onita made an offer to return to the company. What were the details about this? Yeah,
so because of Hayabusa's injury, Onita goes, hey, I'm willing to work it. I'm willing to come back to FMW and everything if to replace Hayabusa. And Fuyuki responds to that just by going, just go back to politics, Onita. We don't need you. We don't need you. And the reason is because at this point, what is the point of bringing back Onita as far as Fuyuki goes? So they had talked about Onita coming back, earlier in the year at Kawasaki Stadium. There were negotiations, and like I said, negotiations fell through to have a Fuyuki Onita match. And I don't know the exact details, but I'm sure a lot of it had to come to just the politics of Fuyuki not wanting to put over Onita. Why put over Onita when I can have the same? I'd rather put over my friend Tenryu instead, and everything, and probably to Fuyuki that Tenryu better than Onita and everything, and so. Whereas Onita is probably going to win over Fuyuki. But that was only going to be a one-time thing. They did all this to get Onita kicked out in 1998 because of all the issues and everything. And, that's a one-time thing that they were willing to possibly do back in May. But that when that fell through, why would we want Onita to come back full-time? Wait, the issues are still going to happen. He's still going to be Mr. Politic guy and everything like that. I mean, especially now with Hayabusa gone, he's definitely going to try and run the show and everything. And so it's kind of like, wait, we don't want Onita coming back running the show and everything. Especially Fuyuki. Fuyuki doesn't like Onita. Doesn't like Fuyuki. Fuyuki has a high position with the company. Why does he want Onita back and everything? And you know what? At this point, FMW's lost so much money. Okay, maybe Onita will bring in some fans and everything, but at this point, he's not going to be the reason that FMW goes to becoming a profitable company and Shoshi Arai doesn't need to sell the company or anything like that. This company is either going to be sold or it's going to go under. And so why bring Onita in, cause these headaches, cause these political issues, Fuyuki's sake, why bring in somebody you don't like and doesn't like you when you have power to a choice. Shoshi Arai obviously has the power. He had that whole thing with Onita. So there's no reason to bring Onita back because if the company gets sold, okay, it'll be the next owner's decision to bring in Onita or to kick Fuyuki out or anything like that, or it's going to go under. So there's no reason to bring Onita back at this point as far as FMW is concerned. And so they pretty much just saying, no, thank you, Onita, and that's that.
Was there any ever did they ever try to sell the company to back to him?
No, they never. I don't think that he was even offered or anything. I don't think he had that much money or I mean maybe he did, but I mean he had his own company and stuff at this point as well. So but no, I'd never heard of anything like that as far as Onita buying FMW.
Okay. All right. So that's going to take us to the November 23rd Yokohama show. This is FMW's their biggest show of the year. What were they able to put? With losing so many guys, what kind of show did they put on here?
Well, this is the second biggest show because the Kawasaki Stadium show was their biggest, and then they had the Komazawa show also. But this was their big, Yokohama November show and everything like that. So they announced, I forget the exact announce. I think it was like that sellout 5,000, 6,000 around there. I was told it was a legitimate 3,000, which is bigger than what it had used to be, what the last couple shows. I think the year prior had done 2,500 or so. Now, you watch the very first match of this show, and there looks like nobody is there. It looks like an empty building at this show. And so there's no way there's 3,000 fans if you look at the first couple matches. Now, towards the end of the show, it starts to be filled up more, and it's not noticeable of how many missing fans. So, like I said, I was told 3,000. You look at it at first, you don't believe that it's 3,000. Either the fans showed up late or, maybe they had a bunch of the fans that were in the back come towards the front for TV purposes, things like that. But, like I said, you see the first couple inches and it like an abandoned building pretty much. Just no one's there. So the first match is Chocobo Mukai taking on Sun Paul, who's making his debut. Sun Paul was an American, Paul Hunt from St. Louis. He had trained under Pat Tanaka when Pat Tanaka came into FMW in late 2000, early 2001. He offered his students, the possibility of going to Japan to train for in FMW, and Paul took it. And so Sun Paul had been training in the FMW dojo the past year or so. It's pretty noticeable just seeing just this random American, do the dojo work, set up the ring and everything like that. So he's making his debut here. He ends up taking on Chocobo Mukai. Mukai ends up getting the win over Sun Paul. He actually ended up becoming he only wrestled for about less than a year or so, because of FMW going under and everything. He ended up having to come back home due to visa issues, but he actually ended up becoming a really good friend with me. He contacted me a lot around this time period and stuff, and still to this day, like, we'll talk every so often. But so he's a really good guy, but I mean, as far as a wrestler and everything, he didn't really get very far before he pretty much couldn't wrestle in Japan anymore. And then one of the matches also is I failed to make mention during this whole time period also. Mr. Ganosuke had a girlfriend who would come to the ring with him. Her name was Marie or Mirai. She had a cowboy hat and short shorts and everything like that. And she was, like I said, she was Ganosuke's the girlfriend and everything. So during this time period, or like in October or so, it comes out that Ganosuke has a mistress. Her name is Mikiko. And so Marie or Mirai is really upset over this new girl showing up and everything. And so they have like a evening gown type match that's horrible. It goes 2 minutes. Mikiko would end up stripping Marie to her bra and panties and everything. And Ganosuke's in the crowd, Ganosuke's doing commentary and everything. And afterwards, he ends up going up to Marie and trying to cover her body and everything. Like I said, Ganosuke had just pretty much turned face a couple of weeks earlier at the November 5th show. So for him to still be kind of involved in this storyline, I mean, I guess they just didn't plan on Ganosuke to turn face, really. But there was no real need for this, and pretty much the whole girlfriend and mistress thing is completely dropped after this because they both disappear after the show. Ricky Fuji wedding. And so Ricky Fuji's getting married, and they've invited all the undercard wrestlers to be the guests. So you have Shinjuku in the ring, by the way, of course. So you have Shinjuku Shark. You have Mitsunobu Kikuzawa, who've been a low indie wrestler for a number of years with like Tokyo Pro and everything. So he was friends with Nosawa, and so he's coming in also. He's probably best known. Saitama Gorilla, who worked the Kawasaki Stadium show. You had Survival Tobita. Like I said, just a bunch of the FMW undercard guys. So anyway, Rick was his bride and everything, and I actually asked Ricky Fuji about this, and he's stupid. I hated this. So Ricky Fuji comes to the ring with his bride and everything, and as they're about to, and Shoshi Arai is also the preacher here, or the minister, and so Arai is about to announce them husband and wife and everything, and the woman ends up, when she's supposed to say I do, she goes, no, I'm actually in love with Nahiko Yamazaki. So Nahiko Yamazaki, who had been a member of Team Kuroda, been a lower undercard guy for the last couple of years, he runs to the ring in this white suit and everything, jumps the ring, and is like, oh, I'm so glad. And so they're celebrating and everything like that that she's going to be with him instead. And so then all the wrestlers go, hey, Ricky, we want all our presents back and everything like that. We gave you all these wedding presents and you're not getting married. We want those presents back. And so then the winner ends of a battle royal with all of you guys gets to have all the money from the presents and everything from the wedding. And this eventually leads to Shinjuku Shark. He ends up winning the battle royal and everything, and afterwards Rika Fujisaki, who I talked about earlier, she comes to the ring and everything, and so pretty much, I mean, they're like I said, they're in love, they're together and everything. But she announces to him that she was with an American. She was with some American that did business with the Yakuza and everything, and he's gonna they're coming after her. He wants her back and everything, and so eventually she would end up getting kidnapped by the Yakuza, and Shinjuku Shark would have to fight all these wrestlers that had like Yakuza gimmicks and everything to win her back. So anyway, so then he had Goemon and Onryo. They took on Jimmy Snuka and his student Jason Ray. This is pretty much, I mean, this is nothing. I mean, Jimmy Snuka was completely nothing at this point by any means as far as work rate goes. Nothing of a match, and Goemon would end up pinning Jason Ray, and pretty much it's just a storyline about Yoshida and his daughter and everything. Jimmy Snuka tells Yoshida and the daughter to be back together. You know, your father and a daughter love each other and everything. So Yoshida walks out with his daughter. I think that was the end as far as her. And so I guess Onryo's single now. And so then for the WWE tag team titles, Mr. Ganasuke and Mammoth Sasaki. They're challenging Biomonster DNA and Dr. Luther. Dr. Luther, Lenny St. Clair. He had been wrestling. He had wrestled in FMW like in the early FMW days, 1992, 1993 or so, where he had like that Hannibal Lecter gimmick. Well, he's now teaming up with Biomonster DNA. A fellow monster, and this is for the vacated WWE tag titles because Hayabusa and Kuroda had to vacate the titles due to Hayabusa's injury and everything. Mr. Ganasuke would end up getting the win over Dr. Luther, and so Ganasuke and Mammoth win the WWE tag titles, but then announce afterwards that this wasn't a quality competition. You know, these monsters, they're not like real wrestlers or anything like that, so this didn't prove that we're really the best tag team. So they end up vacating the titles, and so that's to set up a tournament, a one-night tournament at a Korean Hall show the following month. And then Kentaro Kanemaru takes on Sasuke. Kanemaru's defending his WWE title. Sasuke puts on a good performance here, and like I said, there's Kanemaru's a really good worker. Sasuke's a really good worker, but it's by no means like this great match or anything. Kanemaru throws Sasuke off the balcony through a table to the from the second floor, pretty much the first floor through a table. Kanemaru, like I said, he loves using these tables and everything. He's still doing all these hardcore matches and everything around this time period, and then he sends Sasuke through the table and eventually would end up getting the win with a Thunderfire powerbomb clean. So Kanemaru defends the WWE title over Sasuke, and that's pretty much it for Sasuke and FMW after this. And then the main event is Tenryu and Fuyuki taking on Kuroda and Garuda. Like I talked about, Garuda comes out to a different music. He's not wearing the Hayabusa mask anymore. He has his own mask. He has his own gear. I like the Hayabusa gear better myself, but he's not, he's dyed his hair blonde and everything. So he's coming up with a main event look and everything at least. But I mean, and the match goes 20 minutes plus or so. It's not good by any means. Tenryu shows no respect to Garuda. He no-sells everything. Tenryu is not about to even mess with this kid at this point. And Tenryu's just giving him legit shots to the face, punches to the face and everything. Just no respect for Garuda. Kuroda bleeds pretty decent here in this match. Kuroda is taken, he gets cut up and everything. He gets beat up and stuff like that. And like I said, it's not. I mean, Garuda just wasn't there as far as ready, and they knew it, but it was just this emergency replacement that they felt they had to do and stuff, and they saw potential, but obviously, I mean, I don't know. I saw more potential in Garuda or in Morita in like his undercard matches than this match, because he did some high flying moves, like he did the Firebird Splash, but it didn't do it very well and stuff like that. And like I said, and I'll say moonsault, but like I said, this match it was just kind of blah the whole way. And eventually Fuyuki would end up getting the win over Garuda with the charging lariat, pretty much clean and everything. This would be it for Garuda. They would send him back to Mexico. And then the big storyline here after the show is Ganosuke, Kanemaru, Sasaki hitting the ring, and they're like, Fuyuki, what are you doing? Joining war and everything, and there's involved in war FMW wrestlers as a result. And eventually the FMW team clears the ring, and Kanemaru, Ganosuke, and Mammoth Sasaki, they all put their hands out as like as a team. So it's going to be FMW versus War going forward, with Fuyuki being part of the War team.
All right. And so, okay, let's go on December 2nd, Big Japan, they ran the Yokohama show that we talked about before. This is the match. The main event was Zandig against Matsunaga in a big death match and everything. You mentioned that they wanted to try to make a statement. How did this show come off?
They announced 10,000 or so, but I mean that was work. The report was about half, so I mean that's around 7,000 or so, 7,000, 8,000. Like I said, I just heard that it had been half full. It was not a financial success. I remember hearing that. They never ran Yokohama Arena ever again after this. I mean, like I said, they did bring in Terry Funk, and they brought in Mil Mascaris. Matsunaga took on Zandig in an exploding glass match. So like whenever Zandig would powerbomb Matsunaga, the glass board would explode. So they were impressive explosions and everything like that. And then like I said, the main event really was actually Yamakawa coming back. So he teamed up with Kanemaru. I may mention last episode how Kanemaru went up to the Big Japan at Big Japan at Korakuen Hall. He got on the mic and was like, Hayabusa, my home promotion FMW, we lost Hayabusa. I want Big Japan to have their ace come back and everything. I want Yamakawa to come back, and so Yamakawa agreed to come back and everything. They defend their WEW Hardcore Tag Team titles. This match actually had like a 10-minute time limit because Yamakawa still was not really in like ring shape, and the doctor said he can only wrestle, but it can't go more than 10 minutes. So this match actually goes less than 10 minutes. Kanemaru and Yamakawa take on Minsteo and Daisuke Sekimoto. And Minsteo and Daisuke Sekimoto end up getting the win over Kanemaru and Yamakawa. So they pretty much merged the Big Japan Tag Team titles and the WEW Hardcore Tag Team titles. So now the WEW Hardcore Tag Team titles, which have pretty much been dormant the last 9 months or so, they're going to start being defended in Big Japan.
Okay, so that's going to take us to the December 9th show, if you want to go over that for us.
Yeah, I mean, again, they announced 2,100, but obviously not anywhere close to that or anything. The main match is really just, there's really like not even much, and I like this show as far as the main event goes, but just the undercard is just nothing at this point. Biomonster DNA, they're still trying to get him over as a monster destroyer and everything. So Biomonster DNA defeats Goemon in under 7 minutes, and obviously Biomonster DNA is by no means a good worker. Gasaku never really was that good of a worker himself, let alone put him in this giant monster suit. And so anyway, so DNA ends up getting the win. And then the main event of this show is War versus FMW, Kuroda, Kanemaru, Ganosuke, and Mammoth Sasaki taking on Tenryu, Koto Fuyuki, Rashi, and Koki Kitahara. Like I said, I actually like this match a lot. It's a good match. Tenryu he's just at this point where he is refusing to sell for most of the FMW guys, but they sell for him like crazy. This is the big win for FMW. FMW finally gets a win, gets the win over War. And that's because Fuyuki ends up charging at Ganosuke with a lariat, but Ganosuke catches him and turns it into a Ganosuke clutch. And so Ganosuke gets his first ever pinfall win over Fuyuki. So FMW team gets the win over War. And then it's announced that, like I said, that pretty much ends the War feud with FMW and everything. The Fuyuki and Tenryu team had pretty much split up at this point because they had gotten into in the real world tag team tournament, there was a miscommunication there, and they had ended up like clotheslining each other and everything, and Tenryu got pissed off at Fuyuki and chopped him and everything. So Tenryu is pretty much done with Fuyuki at this point, after this, and so Fuyuki, like the whole Fuyuki war thing is, this was the end of it. So like I said, FMW gets the win, and it's announced that the next show they're just going to have a WW tag team title tournament.
During this time, is Tenryu like what is his deal with FMW? And he's like a bigger draw. So what is it seen as for him to be to be part of this lower company?
Well, he's doing it as a favor for Fuyuki, but I mean, at the same time, getting paid. He's still considering himself. I'm a WAR wrestler. My company, it might be dormant, but it's not dead. So I can work wherever I want. I'm going to work for my friend. I consider Fuyuki a business partner, friend, and all that. And so I'm going to work for him. I'm getting paid pretty good money to do it. And I don't have to sell for these guys. I'm never going to lose to any of these guys. And I have so much seniority and so much more popularity than all these wrestlers. They need to sell my chops and my, my hits and strikes and everything like that, like it's death. Whereas I get to choose when I want to sell and stuff like that. And, maybe I'll get knocked on my feet. That's the big spot right there. Like the FMW wrestlers knocking me, then that was the big spot here. Tenryu is destroying all the wrestlers in this match. Established guys, Ganosuke and Kanemaru, and the big spot is to get the crowd react is they knock down Tenryu and everything, so, it's not hurting him by any means because his image is kept really strong here where he's never going to take a pinfall or anything, he's so far above these guys. And like I said, around this time period, he's the Triple Crown champion for all Japan and everything. So he's, by no means ever going to do a job for any of these guys, but, it's pretty much he's considering it a favor at the same time because he's helping out all MW and Fuyuki.
All right, and that's going to take us to the final show of the year, which is December 21st.
I also want to make mention before I talk about this is the FMW touring, by the way, at this point is a disaster. I just want to make mention because there was a show in November, a couple weeks after the Hayabusa injury, and it made tape, and so they aired it, and it is a small, empty building. So I just want to make mention Corrigan, because this show did 2,100. And so, again, the Corrigan Hall shows never fell to what they did back in March and everything. Under this Hayabusa injury, they never fell. But the touring went back to what it was without Hayabusa before, in the first part of the year and everything. And that is actually pretty much FMW is losing money again, touring all these house shows. They're losing money. Like I said, the Corrigan Hall shows, they're not making that much money, and they might, or anything, but they're definitely not making enough money to save the house show attendance that have just gone downhill completely. But yeah, so this show on December 21st, it is a tag team tournament for the WEW tag titles. And so their idea now at this point is to bring in foreign wrestlers. They're done with the war angle. All they really have is they're just now going to have to bring in former FMW wrestlers and everything like that. So they bring in Sabu. They bring in Super Crazy, who's actually, I may mention he worked the Kawasaki show earlier in the year through Victor Quinones. They bring back Crazy Boy, Super Crazy's cousin, and he actually runs the DTU promotion, the hardcore promotion in Mexico these days. He's in this tournament. Balls Mahoney and Horace Boulder, they come back and everything. So essentially, the main focus really is the Kuroda, Mr. Gansuke and Tetsuhiro Kuroda. They're the favorites for the show. They're the favorites for the tournament and everything. And so is Kanemaru and Mammoth Sasaki. Kuroda and Gansuke, they defeat Goemon and Onryo. And then Sabu, he teams up with Yoshihito Sasaki. Like I said, they're really kind of pushing Yoshihito Sasaki, especially giving him Sabu as his partner. They defeat Biomonster and Leatherface. That's just that's not the original Super Leather or anything like that. I don't know who it was, but it's just the guy they put the Leatherface gimmick that all these small independent promotions do these days. They just get a guy to be under the Leatherface gimmick and everything. Super Crazy Boy, they defeat Misawa and Mitsunobu Kikuzawa. Kanemaru and Mammoth Sasaki, they defeat Balls Mahoney and Horace Boulder. A whole bunch of chairs in that match. Not good by any means, but Mammoth Sasaki and Kanemaru, they swing some chairs and everything during that match. And then Shinjuku Shark, he starts his whole Like I said, Rika Fujisaki, she's been kidnapped and everything. So he does his trial series of facing low indie guys with kind of like a Yakuza gimmick and everything. He gets his first win. Nihiko Yamazaki, he had been in FMW opening, pretty much like I said, lower card guy throughout his whole time, been a member of Team Kuroda, stole Ricky Fuji's wife the month prior. He announces he's retiring. He had suffered an eye injury. So he's pretty much done with the wrestling business at this point. He takes on Koto Fuyuki in a non-tournament match. Fuyuki pretty much just beats him in 3 minutes. And then afterwards, Mammoth Sasaki comes out, hands him some flowers, and gets him on his shoulders so Yamazaki could say goodbye to the crowd. Sasaki and Yamazaki, they had pretty much grown up together in the FMW dojo. They started pretty close together, so they were really close. So that's it for Yamazaki. He actually would never come back into wrestling. So the semifinal matches, Tetsuhiro Kuroda and Mr. Ganosuke, they defeat Sabu and Yoshihito Sasaki. Ganosuke get the win over Sasaki. And then Kentaro Kanemaru and Mammoth Sasaki, they defeat Super Crazy and his cousin Crazy Boy. Kanemaru gets the win over Crazy Boy. And so this sets up the big main event match of Kuroda and Ganosuke against Mammoth Sasaki and Kanemaru for the finals and for the WW tag titles. I hadn't made mention of this prior, but before this match, FMW Arai had made a strict no, or I guess it was before the Yokohama show. But for most of the year, there was no bleeding in FMW. Arai had said, no bleeding. The sponsors don't like it. I'm trying to get as many sponsors as I can, and they don't like the bleeding. They don't like the sex stuff. Please just be like a PG company and everything. And I don't know what happened here, but apparently they gave up on that by the end of the year because Ganosuke bleeds buckets in this match. He gets a deep cut, and he is just covered in blood. This is probably the last really good FMW match. It has that FMW style and everything that, the chairs and just four good workers going at it and just the brawling and the beating each other up and, and Ganosuke hitting the Fire Thunder, Kanemaru hitting the Power Bomb, and everything like that. This was, like I said, it's not a great match, but it's a really good match. This is the last really good show overall before Kuroda would end up getting the Tekken Buster pinfall over Mammoth Sasaki. So Ganosuke and Kuroda win the WEW Tag Team Championship, and Koto Fuyuki announces that he's going to have now his own foreign group, kind of like that ECW Japan group that didn't work earlier back in 2000. And him and Koto Fuyuki announces that he's going to challenge for the WWE Tag Titles, and his partner is going to be the Sandman at the next Corrigan Hall show to start 2002.
All right, and the final show that we're going to talk about, on December 25th, Onita officially launched his own company, basically. If you want to go over that for us.
Called Project X. I think we talked about it last episode, how he was going to start his own promotion. Well, the promotion was pretty much just Onita Pro. But they ran Corrigan Hall, and this was a cage match with Atsushi Onita, Hideki Osaka, Viking Taniguchi, and Hito taking on Tomoki Hama, who's been working independents around this time period. We talked about how he left Big Japan. Shoji Nakamaki, Masayoshi Motegi, and Nice Onita, the fake Onita. He had retired the year prior. Well, he came back, and now he's a heel feuding with Onita and everything. And like I said, this was a cage match. And the big thing here is that Hama is just going all out on this match. He does a diving headbutt off the cage and everything onto Hosaka. He takes a power bomb through a table. Hideki Osaka spears him through a table and everything like that. During this match, Hito, who had came back, from America at this point, he had started working Big Japan, and obviously now the Onita shows and everything. He joins the Onita side on this match, but ends up turning on Onita during the match. So he attacks Onita, he hits a pile driver on Onita, and ends up joining the heel group. But Onita still will, he ends up getting the win. The Onita team still ends up getting the win. I think Taniguchi would end up getting the win over, I think Onita actually got the win over Nice Onita. That's what ended up happening. The fake Onita. Onita would end up getting the win over fake Onita. And so the Onita team wins and everything, but now the heel side has Hito. And like we talked about, Hito left in 2000, and now he is going to work all the independents and Onita Pro and everything. He's not coming back to FMW.
All right. Now, really quickly, how were Onita's first couple months in office?
Yeah, so I talked about how he wanted like this international, peace. With he wanted like just world peace, pretty much. This is his thing. I want to get along with countries and everything. I want to bring support and everything. And so after 9/11, we're into 2001. After 9/11, obviously Afghanistan was getting attacked by America after the World Trade Center attacks on New York and everything. And so the U.S. had pretty much declared war on Afghanistan and stuff. And I know they had done some bombings and everything. So after that, so Onita says, I bring peace and I want to bring happiness to the Afghan children because of what they're going through and everything. They're not involved in this. They had no decision on, to bomb the World Trade Center. So Onita announces that he is going to travel to Afghanistan to meet with the children and everything. So him and Yaguchi, they come to Afghanistan and they supply coloring books to kids and everything. They meet with children and everything. They're intense talking to people and everything, just trying to make them happy. They're making jokes. He's making jokes with the kids about how Yaguchi is is like a fat sumo guy and everything like that. And so Onita's just trying to bring smiles. And he had talked about having a wrestling show in Afghanistan. I don't know if that actually happened. I don't believe it did. I know there were reports of it, but as far as the footage I ever saw, there was no actual wrestling show or anything like that. But it was more of just coming to just bring support. And like I said, he gave coloring books and everything to the kids and just try to bring happiness because, that was his big thing was I want to make other countries happy.
All right. And then one more group I want to talk about is Masato Tanaka, Geto, and Jado. What have they done during this time?
So they pretty much have been working freelance at this time. Like I said, they joined the Onita side and everything. So they were, they had been working the Onita Pro shows. Jado and Geto have been working Michinoku Pro at this point. Tanaka had got a gig with 0-1, but he wasn't a full-time wrestler or anything like that. Tanaka had wrestled like a shoot fight against, I believe, Gerald Garreau at one of the 0-1 shows where he just got his ass kicked by like a legit MMA fighter and everything. And so Tanaka is hurting financially and everything. And so they actually they run a complete player show to try and bring for financial support for Tanaka because he was struggling so much after losing his FMW gig, or he left and everything, but he was pretty much told like, hey, by a ride, hey, you need to leave so we can, because we can't afford you anymore. So he's not used to this. He's not getting paid as much as what he's used to, and so the complete players run a show on November 11th at Differ Rocky, and like I said, it was a charity. I mean, pretty much a financial. It's a financial success, but it was there to help Tanaka and everything. But as the year goes by, like into 2002. They all end up finding pretty much new homes. Tanaka would find a home with 0-1 full-time. Jado and Geto would find a spot with New Japan. Hideki Osaka would actually join All Japan. So pretty much, all of the guys that ended up leaving FMW right now, at least on the Tanaka and, Tanaka's side, he's financially feeling it, but they would all end up being okay going as 2002 hits.
All right, so going back to the company. Now, you wrote that at this time period, as the year ends, Koto Fuki, he's in charge of the money, and he's come, and he's basically realized that there's no going back. The company's doomed. What is the reaction internally about this?
So, but he's the only one that's really knowing about it and everything, other than maybe Nakamura, who was kind of working for him and everything. And we'll probably go into this next episode and everything. So yeah, he's aware. He's in charge of the money. He's aware we are nearing $2 million in debt. Like I mentioned, why bring Onita in? He's not going to save the company or anything like that. And like I said, we'll go into this next episode. But Fuki at this point knows he's going to, the company is either going to be bought or it's going to be closing down and everything. Well, Onita states afterwards, this is after FMW closed, that Fuki and Nakamura were embezzling from the company and everything like that. So there's that going on. But at this point, like I said, Fuki is just like, you know what? I'm going to book it for myself at this point because, like I said, either there's going to be a new owner or it's going to go under. So if there's a new owner, I might be out of a job anyway. We'll see. But I'm going to make myself the top guy here. I'm going to make and the next couple shows for FMW that we go over next episode. I mean, I'm probably the biggest FMW supporter there is. Even just the last show on December 21st, I would consider a really good show with a really good main event. These last two shows for FMW are dog crap. They are horrible. Just a complete change in directions from just the 2001 shows even. So like I said, Fuyuki, he's in charge, and it's just at this point, I'm going to make sure that I have security. At least, even if we go out, I'm going out as champion. And so he starts booking himself as the top guy and everything again. And, as far as financial wise, like I said, there's the Onita rumor of their, Nakamura's embezzling money from the company and everything like that. We'll go into it more next episode, just all the random thing like that as far as money goes with FMW.
And finally, Hayabusa he's been bedridden the whole time. How is his health doing, and what are the expectations for him at the moment?
So we were just talking about how Hayabusa was in the hospital and everything. He had seen Ganosuke and Nakagawa and everything. Well, he's just pretty much just laying in a hospital bed, and the issue with that is you're gonna lay in a hospital bed all day. You can't move. As a result, staying in a hospital, you're going to collect germs and everything. And so he ends up starting to feel horrible. And first off, he ends up getting kidney failure. Then you add in the fact that his temperature has rise to 104 degrees. Around this time period, he's dropping weight like crazy. When he went to the hospital, he was 232 pounds. He would end up dropping down to 127 pounds. He would lose 105 pounds while in the hospital. And like I said, he's getting really sick. He now has pneumonia and everything. And so the hospital doesn't know what to do. Like, they don't know what's going on. Why is he like so severely sick and everything? So they start giving him these drugs to bring the temperature down. And so they give him a drug, and it would drop him down to 98 degrees. Okay, he's back normal. Well, then it would just go back up to 102. So they'd have to just keep giving more drugs and more drugs. So as a result, Hayabusa has no memory pretty much of December 2001. It's just all a dream at this point. And he has this memory. All he kind of remembers is like a dream. Like if you remember a dream from years ago and stuff like that. He remembers hearing on the radio that Harry Potter had been kidnapped by North Korea, because Harry Potter had just came out in movie theaters in November 2001, and so it was just talked about on the radio. So he's just hearing that. Well, and he's awake, and he just has this like a dream while he's awake, pretty much, that it like I said, Harry Potter been kidnapped by North Korea. Then he tells his wife that he has an important match at the Yokohama Bunka Gym show. And if he can't compete, then he's going to have to ask Kijimuto to wrestle the show instead. So he's telling his wife just this, and she's going, what? What are you talking about? Stuff like that. Like, that's a month, pretty much just living a dream in a dream world for a month, because he's on so much drugs to try and get this temperature at a level pace, because you just can't you just can't keep going at 104, 104 or 102 or anything like that. Well, they end up finding out the issue, and it's the doctors find out that it's because due to laying just in bed in a hospital where there's just germs everywhere, as a result, bacteria has spread all into his heart valve, and they're going to have open heart surgery on him, and if it's not success, he's going to die. On December 29th, they have the open heart surgery, and all Hayabusa remembers, they put him out under the lights and everything like that. He wakes up and he sees the lights, and he thinks that this reminds me of Corrigan Hall, looking up at the lights at Corrigan Hall when I'm laying on the mat and everything. Like, that's what he sees. His first thought is he is frozen cold. That's all he just there's just nothing to him right now. He's just, his whole body is cold. But he realizes, I'm alive. And he'd look down, and there's this pipe installed in his chest, and he'd actually have this big giant scar across his chest the rest of his life. even with hey, he's alive. This surgery was a success. He wants to tell the nurse to kill him. That's how miserable he is. But he doesn't have the power to speak. He is just miserable at this point. And the pipe was just hurting him so much, also, just so much incredible pain that they would end up removing the pipe, and like I said, would just leave this giant scar. He'd finally be able to speak, and after everything, he just for the first time, he was happy.
All right. So, is there anything else that you want to talk about before we finish up?
No, I think that's about it. It's we're getting right here towards the end. We're going to be talking a lot of everything that had to do with FMW and the closing and the drama and just politics and it becomes a movie. This was probably the first stage of the movie, and it's about to get more intense as 2002 begins.
All right. If you want to let people know, where can they find you?
You can find me at bahufmw.com. I have pretty much, all the history of FMW also written, specific biographies for wrestlers, including Hayabusa, a history of FMW, a lot of stuff written. I have results going back to the beginning of FMW and everything, the whole promotion, everything after FMW. And I have DVDs for sale from pretty much the entire FMW collection, as well as freedoms and everything in between. You can find me at Bahu FMW on Twitter, and you can find me Bahu FMW World on Instagram, and Brett FMW on YouTube.
All right, and you can find me, I do the Deathmatch newsletter at indiewrestlingintl.wordpress.com. I'm on Twitter at INTL Wrestling, and I just started another podcast, me and Mike from the Deathmatch Cult page on Facebook. We do the Deathmatch News Radio, which is a weekly podcast about death matches from America, Japan, Mexico, and everything. And you can find that on the RSS feed for the THT Podcast Network. So with that, we will wrap it up. Definitely listen to the next episode. It's going to be the most interesting thing that I can think of. So thank you guys for listening.